Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 55 of the Runnin the Paint podcast. I'm Miles. I'm here with Joey. Joey, how are you doing today?
Not doing too bad. Not too bad. Sorry I missed out on the last episode of the Boston Celtics winning the finals, but I was severely under the weather. But not too bad. I didn't miss it because what a boring finals.
Yeah, the solo potting was interesting. Talked about the whole Celtics thing.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, basically, it was a bunch of props to the Celtics.
they got their. I was gonna say my initial thoughts since you didn't get it from on the day. I'll just say they got their job done. They did their part. They can't control any other teams. What happens on other teams. So they did their job. They did it severely well. It's just it was probably the easiest championship run I've ever seen.
It's definitely up there for easier championship runs, but what I basically kept saying is if there was any year for there to be this amount of injuries in a conference, this year's probably the best year for it to happen, and for it to happen really not to the Celtics outside of Porzingis, because regardless of if, everyone was healthy, this Celtics team still probably wins the finals anyway. So,
Yeah. They
you
were
know,
still the best team all year. Like they could, like I said, they couldn't control any other team. They can only control themselves. So you can't knock the Celtics, but you can you can't say, well, it's like, well, hey, it was pretty easy. But
yeah,
hey, a
it's
ring is a ring.
ring is definitely a ring. It honestly is giving me flashbacks a bit to 2015 when Golden State won their title, and every team they faced in the playoffs, their point guard was injured. And
Yep.
then of course the Cavs series, Kevin Love also out. And they obviously they win the championship, but the whole offseason everyone's like, "Oh, every team you played was injured. Is this really a championship? Does this really count?" Then the next year they win 73 games. Can we see the Celtics win 70 games next year?
Ooh, and then blow a 3-0 lead to
And
break
blow
our
a
record.
3-0 lead in the NBA Finals. Yeah, well, so, coming into this episode and, after it being a pretty short NBA Finals, we're a little worried that there wouldn't be a lot of things to talk about considering we still have another week to go till the NBA draft. And the last 2 days, we've got some crazy news, four different pieces of news and headlines that we are going to talk about in this episode. First, let's start, I guess, with the news that came out, I believe, yesterday morning or 2 days ago, but when we're releasing this. The shocking news of the Detroit Pistons firing head coach Monty Williams after one season at the helm. And crazy season there for the Pistons. Franchise worst 14-68 record. Obviously had that record breaking 28 game losing streak. And it was obviously a horrible season for the Pistons, but Joey, that I thought that his job was still going to be safe after one season, but he's gone after 1 year.
Yeah, I definitely don't get it at all. Like they give the man 6 years, $80+ million, and fire him after a year. Like now you owe him so much money for nothing. Like I wouldn't blame Monty for not doing anything for the next couple of years. Like he could just save that money or just like sit around, hang out. You were saying his wife got diagnosed. That'll be perfect amount of time. Hang out with her, help her through this process, and you have all that money to help take care of her.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking before in the pre-pod lobby, like, this was a job that, during last year's offseason, Monty Williams really did not want this job a whole lot. Like, he had several meetings with the Pistons and Troy Weaver at the time, and he declined, I believe, two contract offers, and each time the Pistons were like, "Oh, all right, that's fine. We could just give you more money. We'll give you more money." And eventually you get the number up to 6 years, 80 million to be the highest paid coach in the league. That's just, you can't pass on that type of money. Like, you just can't. Like, you can't blame Monty Williams at all for doing that. I mean, everyone else would have done the exact same thing.
100%. But since I follow a lot of soccer, I see it overseas. I see it a lot where there's all these great players, and then they're getting this built like millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars to go play in Saudi, and then it doesn't work out for them, and they're like, "Dude, this low key sucks." Like, it's not even almost worth the money. But like, even though the money is great, it's not all that it cracked up to be. It doesn't usually work out. Like for the Pistons, like once he said no and you guys were far apart, and then he says no again, at that point it's like, okay, no amount of money, like it's just not going to work well, no matter how desperate you are.
And he's coming off, going into this job, a great job with the Phoenix Suns. This guy was the coach of the year 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago, or I guess 3 seasons ago, back in 2022. Taking that Suns from a similar place that the Pistons are in now. The Suns obviously are competing now, or at least they hope to be with all the star power they have. But they were in a very similar spot to the Pistons, the laughing stock of the league. They had a 10-year playoff drought. They bring in Monty Williams, and he immediately, of course, Chris Paul helped a whole lot, but he changed the culture of that team. They go to the NBA Finals. The next year, they have the best record in basketball. And then, his final year there, a bit of a disappointing end of the season. But I didn't agree with that firing either. But,
No, I
going into
thought,
that summer, or go ahead, Joey.
yeah, no, I thought he was a good coach then. I'll be honest. Like, I thought he was a good fit for Phoenix. I was surprised. I'm like, one bad year? Really? Or like one
One
disappointing year? Like, that doesn't make up for the last like 2-3 years? Really?
a disappointing year where you traded for Kevin Durant at the trade deadline. So that's a big piece to add to your team, where I believe he only played in like 7 games in the regular season. And then in
Yeah.
the playoffs, you lost to the team that went on to win the title, the Denver Nuggets. So he didn't do a bad job there whatsoever. So he getting this historic 6-year, $80 million contract, we were all like, this is pretty warranted. I mean, he's one of the best coaches in the NBA. This year, it was, very, very, very different for him. There were a lot of questionable decisions that he made with the Pistons this season, most notably probably playing way too many of his players at once. Um,
Killian Hayes.
Killian Hayes, like the fact this dude, how many games did he start this
He
season?
played
Like,
so many, and his what was his plus minus was just disgusting.
yeah, Killian Hayes started 31 basketball games this season.
In the
And
first half, and then after that, didn't play a single game, not even like
well,
off the bench.
no, well, he was no, at the trade deadline they couldn't trade him and they waived him and he
Yep.
is not on an NBA roster. This guy started 31 games this season. That along with him playing, 5-man bench units a ton in the second quarter. Like a team that is, you know, it's not like this coming into the season we expected a lot out of this team. Some people thought that maybe they could sneak into a play-in because when you look at this team, they have very young, talented players with Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey.
Yeah.
But I remember to start the year, Jaden Ivey did not look like himself at all. Monty Williams didn't want to use him. He was benched for Killian Hayes.
Like I felt for Detroit fans at that time because I know they were probably screaming their heads off at that.
Yeah, but getting to the money thing again for Monty Williams, this is crazy to put this into perspective. So Monty Williams, of course, a former NBA player, he played in the '90s and early 2000s. In his 9-year career, he made $8 million in his 9-year career, and now he's going to get paid $65 million to not have a job. And like you said, probably wouldn't blame him at all for not getting a job, soon. I mean, there are different jobs out there that could have made sense. We'll get to the Lakers in a little bit. Like immediately after this news, they were like, "Oh, should the Lakers and Cavs pivot away to go after Monty Williams?" Or Monty Williams could still make a great assistant. I think that, I mean, whatever decision he decides to do is going to be a good decision. It's a win for him.
I think he's
Um,
probably going to do what Mark Budenholzer did and take a year off, where he
yeah,
was
take care.
also in our finals NBA champ and coach of the year, and then got fired out of nowhere after one bad year. And it's like, all right, I'm just going to chill for a year, get my head in check, and then I'll make a return.
I'll tell you what, getting the coach of the year is like some sort of bad omen.
It
it's
really
some
is.
it's some sort of bad omen because you look at recent winners, of course, Mark Daigneault and Mike Brown. They're going to be there for a while, but Monty Williams, Nick Nurse won it. Mike Budenholzer for the Bucks. Dwayne Casey was fired the same year he won Coach of the Year in
Yeah.
2018 for Toronto. For the Pistons, I question. Okay, we've obviously had playoff basketball for 2 months. Their offseason has already been for 2 months. If you were gonna fire him, why did you wait to fire him this soon when most likely you're not gonna have a head coach by the time the draft starts when you were just the worst team in the NBA and you need, young talent, and it'd be nice to have a coach there to, work out players.
Yeah, I told you in the pre-pod lobby how like you can't control the luck of the ping pong balls, and they've gotten with having such a bad record over the last many years. The amount of times that they've gotten like the fifth pick or something like that, like it's ridiculous. Like nobody deserves that kind of luck. I'll
No.
admit that, but they're just running. It's like their organization is running with a chicken, like its head's cut off. Like I don't know what they're doing. They try to get a coach to rebuild. He doesn't want to go there, so you force it to happen. By the way, this is already 3 years in now to finally when you had a number one pick in Cade Cunningham, like super talented dude, and you're trying now. It's time to build. Right, you got a lot of young guys, and now you fire him after a year. Now,
Yeah.
and like you said, 2 months into the offseason for your offseason, it's just you're about to go into another draft and you're so behind, and your star player, you have no direction right now. Like Cade Cunningham's not going to sign an extension at this point. I wouldn't if I was him. Like,
No,
you don't know what's going on.
it's crazy to think that he's already going to enter his 4th year in the league, and in his first 3 seasons in the NBA, guess how many wins the Pistons have in 3 years of his career? The
I'm
last 3
gonna
years,
say 52.
54. Nearly right on. 50. They've won 54 games. Cade Cunningham has won 54 games in his career. It really is unbelievable. Like, so the only thing I can really think of as far as the Pistons waiting this long to make the hire is they did transform their front office. They did bring in Trajan Langdon from the New Orleans Pelicans, and usually, if you're in the front office, you want to be the one to pick the head coach. We've seen several situations in the past where a GM comes in, a front office member comes in with the coach already picked out, and it just doesn't mesh well. They end up firing the guy anyways.
Yeah.
But again, Monty Williams is a good head coach, and through the candidates that they are immediately looking at following this firing, according to Woj, they have already gotten permission to interview Sean Sweeney and Mike Inori, assistants for the Mavericks and Timberwolves for this job, as well as recently fired Cavs coach JB Bickerstaff, who
Which we think would be a great fit. He's done it in Houston and Cleveland now, where he takes
a little bit too.
not good young teams with a lot of talent and brings them to possible playoff contention. Now, we ran into it here, and that's why he's gone, is he kind of plateaus at that point. But right now, you are so far in the mud, Detroit. If you just want to have like watchable basketball, JB would be a perfect coach for you to help develop the young guys, have like an identity at least.
Yeah, like it's just so this team, the Pistons, they've been bad for a long time. It feels like they've gone through 3 different rebuilds all in one all in one go. Spanning from the Greg Monroe or Josh Smith, Andre Drummond front court all the way down to this.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at their franchise index here. So I don't I'm pretty sure the current playoff streak as far as teams missing the playoffs in the East, I'm pretty sure it's the Hornets. They haven't
Yeah,
made it since 2016. But the Pistons, they've made the playoffs 3 times since 2009, 2008. 3 times since 2008. They haven't won a game in all. They haven't won a playoff game in
it's
any
been
of those
sweet,
years,
sweet.
which means that they have not won a playoff game. It's going to be 17 years if they make it next year, which we don't probably won't happen unless they have a major jump up. But 17 years without winning a playoff game. I mean, the Pistons fans, you got to be starved for success. No question about that. I mean, 17 years, I can't imagine. That's basically the Sacramento Kings of the East.
You're as soon as Detroit gets that first playoff win in 17 years or 18, 19, however long it takes until they break that streak, I guarantee you they're going to party harder than Boston is partying about this championship.
Oh my gosh, that's like the
The,
biggest meme from that championship.
I literally saw like a huge like a Boston like a video of like people this
Watch
group of
party.
guys watch party, and as soon as they get up and they win the championship they go, hey, great job. They just handshake, no screaming, jumping. I'm just like, hey, nice job everybody, hey, let's go. It's like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Spoiled.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so Detroit, I mean, I don't think it could get much worse from here. I mean, the good thing is this offseason they do have a max extension, or not a max extension. They have a max spot available in free agency. I don't know who would go to Detroit. We've joked about Miles Bridges, which I don't
It
know. I
would
mean,
work out for him.
it would but they have
You
several. I
read
mean,
into that however you want.
but yeah. But they do have, the solid young core there of, Cade, the Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson, and then of course the fifth overall pick this year. Um, so they'll be looking for their head coach now. They're joining the Cleveland Cavaliers as the only two teams with open head coaching vacancies, but
Because we
um
just had one filled.
because we just had one filled. Great transition there
Transition.
with the Los Angeles Lakers finally deciding to hire JJ Redick to be their next
Hey.
head coach. Joey, you start us off on this one. We've had such a long time to speculate about, him maybe being their head coach. Now it is official. He's agreed to a 4-year deal. Rob Pelinka offered him the job this morning, and he's agreed to it. So what do you think about this hire by the Lakers?
Um, it's a solid hire. Like, it's something to like, whether you want to say it or not. Like, it does entice LeBron to probably want to re-sign there. Like, it really does, because like that's a good buddy of his. I saw a stat earlier that said I was just showing about JJ was drafted 3 years after LeBron and then retired in 21 and is now coaching LeBron.
Think about it. So JJ Redick, since LeBron's entered the league, he had an illustrious college career at Duke, has a full successful NBA career as one of the best three-point shooters of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Then since retiring, well, I guess, and then while playing, became the first player to really start his own podcast like mid-season. Then since retiring, has created his own podcast company, became a lead color analyst on ESPN on the NBA Finals team, and become the head coach of LeBron's team. It's crazy. He's done all that since LeBron has entered the league.
He is a very smart basketball mind, so it will
Absolutely.
work out to some degree. However, they'll probably be looking for a new coach in 2 years when LeBron's officially gone. And then they're like, oh, LeBron's gone. Let's ship out Anthony Davis, try to get something for him because he doesn't have another max contract probably in him anymore. Then at that point, oh, what young guys do we have? Nobody probably.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this list of I guess just people that or former players that became coaches without any coaching experience, because that is something that JJ Redick is going into.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the last one really is Jason Kidd, with the Nets, who obviously just took the Mavericks to the NBA Finals. But you got Mark Jackson. Doc Rivers did a similar thing, went from player to the broadcast booth to coaching, and he's still coaching now, almost 25 years later.
That's the thing. Like, it will work out. Like, I'm not saying JJ's not going to be a good coach. I'm just saying your first coaching job, right out of not coaching, probably going to go decent, but not great. Like, you're probably not going to finish your full 4 years there. I hate to say it. Just look at Monty Williams in Detroit. Like, sometimes stuff happens. However, those other names you said, Jason Kidd, didn't work out for the Nets. He was in the Bucks too. And now he went to the Mavericks, and he just took him to the NBA Finals. Doc Rivers, same thing. Went to coach it, and he won a championship. Like, it doesn't work immediately, but man, he does have a very good basketball mind. He will be. I think he could be a successful coach in the NBA.
I think so too.
Eventually.
I think the Lakers, I mean, they say they have a vision for him. They were looking for a coach, that could develop, be a more developmental coach around their younger guys with Austin Reeves, Max Christie, Rui Hachimura. But someone that would also put more of a focal point on Anthony Davis, now that LeBron is, in his last few years in the NBA. But I also saw something. I'm checking to see an article to make sure it's true that they are hoping that he could potentially be a Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra-esque coach to come in with not much experience and then come in as a coach.
What? How does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm trying to
What
find
not experience is between Eric Spoelstra and how does that? Eric Spoelstra was like started from the bottom and then made it to the top. Like he worked his way.
I think JJ Redick. He obviously doesn't have coaching experience, but from his podcast, he's talked to basically every basketball mind out there about the game. Like he's got, he doesn't have the actual NBA coaching experience, but he's got, probably about as much NBA knowledge for the modern game as anyone else probably would have, for this job.
Oh yeah. If you're going to start a podcast with LeBron James and talk about basketball, you have to have a basketball IQ that at least can get close to his.
Yes, absolutely. I cannot find it because the Athletic wants me to pay to read the article, but
oh, that's lame.
But
it's 2024. We're all broke. Come on, guys.
yeah, exactly, man. But I think it's definitely interesting. I'm excited to see how it will pan out because, it's something that this kind of, came along very, very quickly. JJ becoming a head coach. I'm curious to see, I'm a little sad that, this probably means the end of his podcast, maybe
100%.
I don't think you can do it as a coach. Who knows? We never thought you could do it with a player. Maybe you could do it as a head coach in the NBA. That'd be insane.
Players, I can see. Head coach is a little different. Because if you're talking about basketball IQ and you're going over plays and stuff, you're a coach and you have to draw up plays. Like you're basically just exploiting yourself at this point.
Yeah. So. But yeah, it's great. I'm excited to see how that pans out for the Lakers.
I hope it works out well. Even though I'm not speaking highly of it, like I said, only 2 out of 4 years I'm predicting. If they keep them long term, I think that's great. When we talk about LA and patience and rebuild, it does not match. They want to win now. They always make moves. They always bring in big free agents. So they're always going to want to keep winning. I just don't think LA has the patience for that.
Yes. Okay, here we go. Here's the quote from Shams Charania of The Athletic that the 39-year-old Redick checks many of the boxes on the Lakers' extensive checklist for their next head coach. He's drawn internal comparisons to a young Pat Riley as a coaching prospect who jumped from playing to the broadcast booth to the coaching chair. Los Angeles is confident he can be their version of Eric Spoelstra or Steve Kerr, a culture setter who can grow with the franchise for over a decade. Now that's speaking very highly of him, but I mean, it's well warranted for sure.
I was gonna say, definitely could see that kind of potential, but as long as you have the patience, I think it really just comes down to the patience thing for me. Just because it's LA, it's stars. They're gonna, if Rob Pelinka wants to keep with that, and I think he should, the fans are gonna call for his job, and then they're gonna be calling it Jeannie Buss, and then she's gonna have to do something, aka buy Rob Pelinka or buy. I really hope that doesn't happen because JJ would be a great coach to help develop in the next brand of basketball you want to be playing.
Yeah, we'll see if Laker fans switch it up because to me, this is like the first time where the Lakers hired a coach and fans are like, well, Laker fans are like, yes, this is the guy we wanted.
Hmm.
Like, I feel like previously, like Darvin Ham, Frank Vogel, Luke Walton, even when they hired them, they were like, yes, this is the guy we want. We weren't sure about this guy, I should say. I think this time it's like, all right, this is the guy we wanted. So
Yeah.
maybe that helps things a little bit.
Good
We
luck,
will
LA.
it is LA. We will soon find out what how it all turns out. Now shifting over to another signing, I guess the first real reported free agent signing, that the Indiana Pacers are reportedly going to sign Pascal Siakam to a max contract deal. Joey, what do you think about this report?
Perfect. Glad we thought that when he was traded there halfway through the season that like, hey, this is where he's going to sign an extension because that's where he wanted to do. He wanted to be traded somewhere where he would sign an extension at, and especially after making the Eastern Conference Finals. Again, regardless of how you want to say about the path, that's huge for Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton's chemistry and every Miles Turner, that entire team, Rick Carlisle included as the coach. Like, that's huge confidence just to be able to know how to get there and to have that feeling. I think it's a good matchup. I think it's a good combo of Halliburton and Siakam. Glad they're getting it done. I think the Pacers are going to be a perennial playoff team for the next 6 years.
Yeah, now the question is, obviously this team should be a perennial playoff team after this run that they had, but I think there is a legit question that, like you mentioned, the path them making the Eastern Conference Finals, was that this team's ceiling, and was that ceiling only reached because they faced teams that were injured?
Oh, their ceiling was like taking the Bucks to like 7 games. And
Really?
then that to me that was their ceiling, but then like they won it, then they made the Knicks, and then they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, I know they were all injured, but like as a team that had so much hype in the start of the year and then kind of was blowing it, and then at least barely made it out of the play-in, like, you did pretty good. Like, regardless of who you play, like I said, I think it's just an all confidence, especially with this young a team. Like, they would have been happy to make it in the second round, kind of like us Cavs, who were like, hey, as long as we show improvement off of last year, I think that'll entice Mitchell to stay. Same thing with them. Hey, as long as we show a little improvement, get some confidence, who knows what can happen with this young group of guys.
Yeah, and Siakam was great during the regular season and the playoffs. He was just incredibly efficient as well from all areas except really the free throw line. That was a little weird to see.
Besides the free throws, we know that.
So much yeah. But yeah, I think that this team could do what they did again last year because the East is again pretty wide open as well. I mean, besides Boston, who is not going to have to make many changes to their team this summer.
Yeah.
The Pacers, they'll join several other teams in the East, in my opinion. And again, this is going into free agency. The Pacers will be one of several teams in the East that I think will have a conference finals or bust mentality going into the season.
I don't think they're quite conference finals or bust. I hope they have like a more realistic outlook on it, where it's like, hey, we face two of the most talented teams in the East, and all their stars were injured. Like, that's kind of how we made it. I hope they have our guys played fantastic, but we went to 7 games with that kind of Knicks team.
Well, so that's where. So I think the Bucks.
I think if they make it to the second round and show fight and all that kind of stuff, I think as long as they stay around that second round, making it to the conference finals next year, I think that's still a pretty good year, because you don't want to be like, hey, we made the conference finals, and then do what the Hawks did and just fall off the face of the earth. You just need to at least show that you're capable of competing to make it there again. So it's not a fluke, and keep the momentum going, because there's only 2 teams in the conference make it to the finals those conference finals every year.
And one of
the odds of all of it going right again, you just want to be able to compete. You don't want to fall off, because then it's a bad trend like the Hawks did. You at least want to stay competitive there, I think.
Well, so I agree with you there. I think that personally, I don't think that they should be a conference finals or bust team. I think that a successful season would be a second round appearance again. But I think for them coming into next year with think they made a conference finals without Benedict Mathurin, too, one of their leading scorers. They've got young guys who are all going to get better. They will probably have the mentality that we made the conference finals last year. We should make it back again this year. I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
If they want to be competitive and make it to the conference finals, they need to sign TJ McConnell to the max.
I'm TJ to the max. Well, so that's something. Well, not that, but there's something else I wanted to good old TJ McConnell. But another part of this that there's something that could be said. This is a guy that is now 30 years old that signed a 4-year, $189 million deal. Could this be a deal that the Pacers regret on the back end of this? Because he's going to be 34, making a hefty amount of money there at the end of his contract for a guy that in Indiana, because he was not playing under Nick Nurse, he didn't play 40 minutes a game, which is he played between 37, 38, 35 minutes a game every year under Nick Nurse after Kawhi left. A guy that's going to have played heavy minutes and is going to be 34 at the end of this max contract. Do you think that this could maybe bite the Pacers at the end of the deal?
I don't think so. I think he'll be able to hold out, at least, if not he'll be at this top level for another year or two, but even just slightly below for the next 2 years, I think it'll be fine. At that point, you're hoping Mathurin and Halliburton are your top 2 stars at that point, and then you just have, if you have that and Pascal even as the 2/3 with Benedict Mathurin, I think you're totally set. Not to mention if you bring in a free agent, because hey, Indiana, I know it's a small market, not crazy people want to go there, but to me it's kind of like Cleveland or Orlando, kind of where it's like, hey, this is a young kind of group with big momentum going forward. I kind of want to hop on this train.
And their players are going to get better. I mean, this is a young team with lots of
I think Siakam, I think it'll be fine. Especially because 34, I think once you hit that 34, 35 mark, that's when it's like, okay, you definitely are on 1 to 2 year deals, because you're not getting at the end of those is when you're done. I think 34 is really the cutoff, so I think they got it just in time.
Yeah, this is probably the right time to get him to this sort of deal. I was just thinking because him playing all those minutes, man.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have to relax unless it's going to be a bigger drop off than expected in that last year.
Yeah, which is it's kind of crazy to think about. He's going from basically 2 different situations: a very shallow Toronto team where he had to play all those minutes, all those starters had to play all those minutes, to this Pacers team where he only has to play 30, 32 minutes a game, And it'll work out in time for the playoffs. So I think that this is a nice deal for them for the next couple of years, and with the
Oh,
East again being
only
open, it's gonna work out.
only a couple hours away, though, there was another team in that same division that made some big news today.
Very, very surprising news. Or
you
very
you want to talk about what happened that shook the role player world in the NBA universe?
big shocker. We have our first trade of the summer. And it was a 1-for-1 swap. You really don't get a whole lot of those anymore, but a 1-for-1 swap. We have the Chicago Bulls trading two-time all-defensive guard Alex Caruso to Oklahoma City in exchange for Josh Giddey. Which angle would you like to talk about first with this trade? We want to talk about the Thunder or the Bulls?
Um, I want to talk about the Bulls, to be honest.
Okay, we'll talk about the Bulls first. Getting what them trading away, or well, I guess you just start us off with the
Yeah,
Bulls.
trading away Caruso. It's not even. It's like, hey, capitalize on him on his high market value right now because he is an elite defensive force.
Who also hit threes at a very high clip as well this
Yeah,
year. He had a very good year this year.
he's one of those that's got that like spark plug attribute where as soon as he or microwave, as soon as he starts hitting, he can pop off for like a quick 10 to 15 real quick. Doesn't do it often, but every now and then he does it.
Yeah, this year
It's
he
more
averaged a career high 10 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, nearly 2 steals a game, 41% from 3 on nearly 5 attempts.
that's insane. Yeah. That is beautiful for the Thunder and the Bulls giving that away for I'm not going to make any Josh Giddey jokes. I made them in our pick'em chat. Grow up, everybody. Um, well, or grow up, Josh Giddey, maybe, or let the. Never mind. Yeah, my big thing is how did they not get any draft compensation? Thunder had not even. I know we talked in the pre-pod lobby. How did they not even get a first round? They didn't get any picks.
They didn't get any
They
picks.
have like 30-something first round picks, let alone like second round picks and beyond that. You didn't get anything for that, and all you got is hey, Josh Giddey's a good player, good young player, but he's right now at the caliber of Alex Caruso, or even below Alex Caruso, I would say, in my opinion at least, because Josh Giddey, you want more offense out of him, and he could do more on the offensive end, but personally, I would even rely more on Alex Caruso because you know what you're going to get on the offensive end with him. I think Josh Giddey's just a lot younger, so there's more potential. That's what they were looking at, I think. But I'm sorry, Caruso's an elite defensive force, like top 3 defensive guard in the league, even with Marcus Smart healthy.
So I think with that you wonder. So with this move, obviously the Bulls are looking to go younger. Trading Caruso for Josh Giddey. And with DeMar DeRozan, I believe, being up for contract this year, he's a free agent. He could look to go elsewhere here. Are the Bulls finally gonna look to blow it up and start a rebuild now with making a move like this, trading Caruso for Josh Giddey, who is still only 21 years old? It's so easy to forget how young he is. And he was last year, even for a playing team, he averaged 16, 8, and 6, which like he had, crazy numbers. This year, obviously the Thunder, blasted up to the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. So teams focused on, trying to take away, I guess leaving him open a little bit more. We saw that in the playoffs, how there were times where he was a little bit unplayable, but even overall this season, for a guy that had the ball a lot less with all that talent, J-Dub and Chet Holmgren really excelling there, and of course Shea, he still averaged 12 points, 6 boards, and 5 assists on 48% from the field, which is not bad. Not bad at all. I mean, he was able to find a way to fit in, and now he goes to this Bulls team where at the very least, that your backcourt is going to include Kobe White and Josh Giddey, which I think is going to be very fun offensively. And they both complement each other pretty well. So I don't think it's horrible for the Bulls because I think that with this potential that they have in Josh Giddey, that it could work out. I think the big thing, like you said, is just not getting any picks in return because the
That's
Thunder
where
just yeah.
Yeah, that's where I see it is just the loss for Chicago. Is you didn't get any draft compensation. Like you could at least get like a late first round pick or something.
Yeah,
Like I just don't get it. Josh Giddey's up. This is exactly the message I think Chicago wants to send to their fans as like, hey, we're trading to get a little younger. I know Caruso's great, but like this is like the first mini step in going into the rebuild. Like this is to test the waters for the fans. But personally, all right, I'll be honest, it's a good move. It really is like a smart move to do that. To start for the rebuild finally. But again, you should have got at least something for something else.
and this is Caruso. He's entering the final year of his contract, so he's an expiring deal coming up. So getting him off the books now,
And
so you don't have to pay him. This is a guy that is 30 years old. Is going to be 31 by the time he does his extension, and OKC is going to immediately try to give him a 4-year extension. And let's talk about it from their point of view because, like you briefly mentioned, I mean this is great. I mean,
perfect.
You trade Giddey, who a young talented player, but really doesn't fit alongside your other young players. Was played off the court at different times. He only averaged 18 minutes per game in the playoffs. And you deal him for a guy that's a veteran. That's something that this team needed.
Yeah.
Another perfect 3-and-D defender and one of the best in the NBA. Now your worst defender in your starting lineup is going to be probably Jalen Williams, who is an above average defender from perimeter and interior. Like this team is going to be unbelievable next year. It is ridiculous.
This could be like an all NBA or an all defensive team, like team right in itself. Like I know, like Shea, even though steals are kind of like an inflated stat, sometimes a lot of people say, and it doesn't mean that much. He's still a great on-ball defender where he gets those numbers and those steals. I don't care what you say.
And
Lou Dort,
he put up a block per game as a guard.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
he's a great defender. He could have been on an all defensive team this year.
Very well could have been. We already know about Lou Dort in the Dortcher chamber. Obviously, Alex Caruso, two-time defensive, all defensive team. Chet Holmgren, already a lead defensive interior defender
As a rookie.
as a rookie.
Like I brought up this trade and I half jokingly said, Thunder are championship favorites now, blah blah blah. And Jackson was like, no, Minnesota, blah blah blah. Dude, this team is unbelievable. Coming in, I think the odds immediately came out after the NBA finals were over about championship odds for next season. And I want to say it was Boston, Denver, then Oklahoma City third before this trade, and they got even better. You could make a case that this team is going to be the favorite to win it all, or at least come out of the West.
I would probably put my money if you're telling me predictions right now, I would honestly put them coming out of the West right now. Just because
I would too, honestly. I would too.
Good job, Minnesota, on this year, but I'm sorry, Jackson. I probably won't buy that big of a hype trade over this kind of team. This team did exactly what they needed to do. This Thunder team. They have their superstars. They have their superstars of the future. They have Shea, they have J-Dub, and they have Chet. Those are like their 3 superstars that carry them this year, that are super young, that are continuously going to get better. What do you need? You need bench players. You need role players to keep even getting better. And you do that. You absolutely capitalize on, like you said beautifully, Josh Giddey, who's a young, really good young potential guy, but just does not fit in all the great young talented guys this Thunder team already has. Might as well get him for a veteran presence, which they tried to do with Hayward, and it didn't work out. So you get a younger one that can play much, much better.
Yeah, so 2 things on this. So they make this deal, And you just mentioned Gordon Hayward. They're going to have his $33 million off the books.
Yep.
As a free agent.
There's
And
that extension money you said.
Yeah. So something that I think that some team we talked about the Pacers making their conference finals. We briefly mentioned the Atlanta Hawks making their run. Something that these teams sometimes fail to do is when you have your star players and key starting players on their rookie deals before they get their next deals that are more expensive, you got to make a move to go now. And this team, they did that with this trade. Like you look at their salary cap right now. These are all the guys that are still on their rookie contracts. Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, Cason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins. Then you still have, the other Jalen Williams still on his rookie deal. Isaiah Joe at $2 million. Kenrich Williams, $6 million, an enforcer. That's like most of your rotation making less than $10 million next year. Like, and most teams, they don't do a good job of, getting a splash.
Mhm.
And I mean, it helps when you draft all these super guys that are come out of the gate, extremely talented, winning players early on. But
That's what I was about to say and mention. I'm like, we may be overreacting here a little bit just because we're big fans of Caruso, or at least I am, because I'm a big defensive guy and he's just fantastic. But like I said, this team doesn't need crazy splashes. They bring in another superstar. You never know how that chemistry is going to mix. J-Dub could completely fall off. Chet too, because there's another one taken away from their development. You just need someone there to be a consistent help for those guys and a consistent, perfect complement piece. Someone to play a 3-and-D guy. You never could have enough of that. Lou Dort is already an exceptional one, and you just added another one. Like when they are going against Ant Edwards and the Timberwolves, because like I said, I don't want to I'm not going to hop completely off the Minnesota train. They're still going to be a very good team because Ant Edwards is a dog. And I can't wait to see Minnesota and the Thunder go against each other again. And Ant Edwards is going to have a terrible time, I think. I think he's still going to be good, but you're going to get switched upon so much. You're going to be hounded by Caruso, then Luke Dort, then Shea every night. You can't switch on anybody. Like it's defensively, at least, it's disgusting to go against if you're any other team.
yeah, so some numbers on Caruso from last season. Already mentioned the 41% from three, was fourth in the NBA in steals. And this is a crazy stat. He was second in defensive half-court matchups against 2024 All-Star players, trailing only Lou Dort, who is on his team. And it's crazy, man, that you've got these two guys in the same starting five with Chet, with J-Dub, with Shea already. Caruso will be eligible for a 4-year, $80 million contract extension 6 months from the date of this trade, entering the final year of his contract. So they will be able to offer him an extension. This would be right at December, right around Christmas time.
He might have a nice Christmas gift awaiting him.
Insane trade. Super excited to see how that pans out for the Thunder. I guess other stuff with Josh Giddey and Chicago. Another reason why they hope to make this deal is, of course, ever since they had the success with Lonzo Ball in there as that playmaker. Ever since he got injured, they've been seeking someone to be like that. Offensively, be able to play make. They get that with Josh Giddey.
Yeah.
They get that with Josh Giddey. So. There's news that they may look to buy out Lonzo Ball, who's I believe has a $21 million player option this year that he will accept, and the Bulls may stretch that out, buy him out if he can't come back, or maybe he will come back for them. I mean, who knows? I mean, I hope that he's able to come back because it's been so long since he's been able to play basketball.
I agree. He's someone even though his loudmouth dad almost ruined it for, at least for me, and I know a lot of other fans for him, but he is a very talented player. He could do pretty much everything. He is involved with everything. I think you're right. Josh Giddey would be a perfect kind of fill in until he does come back. Because you're right, he does kind of do everything.
Yeah, I mean, he can do everything, and having the ball in his hands more, especially if they end up moving on from Levine, DeRozan, Vucevic, that's going to be huge. Now, we were about to end off the episode, but I just got a Woj bomb. Joey, you might have just gotten one too. That Malik Monk is going to return to the Sacramento Kings for 4 years, $78 million, including a player option. We have a live Woj bomb, our first one ever on the Run in the Paint podcast. This is awesome. We can get initial reactions of Malik Monk returning to the Kings. Honestly, I'm surprised by this. I thought he was going to go somewhere else to try to be a starter.
That is very, very shocking. I thought he was gone too. I thought he was about to capitalize because, hey, we love the Sacramento Kings and Mike Brown, but come on, they're not in that loaded West. If you want to win, you could help out any other team, and especially in the East, to even get a better chance, I would say.
I was thinking that he was going to go.
Oh, there it is. Now I just got it.
Yeah, Malik Monk.
Wow.
The sixth
Good
man of the
for
year
him, though, man. He still got paid. That's all. That's what it's all about. He is a great sixth man. Perfect.
In my opinion, should have won sixth man of the year. I had him over Naz Reid winning the award. I personally, coming into this summer, I thought that he was going to go because of his improved playmaking and his great scoring, that he was going to go try to be the starting point guard for the Orlando Magic. I thought that was going to happen this summer.
I'm glad they didn't do that because I'm sorry, there are too many guards in Orlando. Stop giving them all these talented ones. Spread the wealth a little bit.
They needed an offensive guard. They'll probably still get one this summer, but this is great. I mean, this is great for the Kings. I mean, looking at, Sacramento this season, I know you mentioned that they probably aren't competing in that West. And for a championship, probably not. It just is so loaded in there. They are in that play-in tier for a reason, but I think that's something that they could be thinking about as well is, okay, last season in the 2023 season, we were the 3rd seed as a 48-win team. Then this past season, we lose only 2 less games, win 46 games, and we're the 9th seed. We're the 9th seed. We lose 2 more games, and we're in the play-in. When if we won those same amount of games in the West, we would have still been the 3rd seed the previous year. I think that this year was just a crazy West, and they could maybe just think that this past year was a crazy West, and we're not going to get something like that again.
I was going to say, you said there's still a plan. I think there still could be a play. They could still make it out of the play-ins with those 2 records. And it's perfect that they still landed. I was going to say, for Sacramento, it is great because you want to keep what's been working. Keep with the success. It has been working. The West is loaded, so it's just unfortunate this year it happened that way. However, you can't bank on that to happen every year. 46 to 48 wins a year is going to get you a top 6 seed 90% of the time.
Yeah, the fact that the Pelicans were a 49-win team and they were in the play-in still. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
With Sacramento, I think that they do have some moves to make because I think that they shouldn't go into this same year with the same roster, the same core, because I do think that can only take you so far. I think that Harrison Barnes may be a league candidate.
I was about to say they still have Harrison Barnes. They could still improve.
Yeah, so you know what? That actually just that reminded me that there were reports maybe that the Bulls and the Kings were in talks for a Zach LaVine for Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes trade. LaVine for Huerter and Barnes. Will that still happen now that Monk re-signed? I mean, they'd be overpaying a lot for Zach LaVine if that happened, but definitely could still be possible.
Hey, if you want to make a splash like that, that'd be a perfect third for them. Because Zach LaVine is a dog,
Be a
but
fun
he's good when
backcourt.
he's on offense and he's attacking. But with De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, he can get you they can get you those moments to flourish like that.
Yeah, so it looks like the numbers for his deal, it's going to be 17 million, then 19, 20, and then his player option will be for 21.5 million for the 27-28 season, and that's going to be right around when he's 30 years old. All these all these free agents we're talking about going to be 30 years old when they get their next deal.
Well, that's the perfect time because then you sign one more 4-year extension, 34, 35. Then you sign 1 to 2 years until you retire.
And
Or at
I
least
think
that's
this
the dream. That's the
yeah,
dream.
that's definitely the dream. I think that this is smart for Malik Monk too. I mean, you think this is a guy that it didn't really work out with Charlotte. It was a crazy year, the one year he was with the Lakers. He's found a home in Sacramento. It's great to see him, be able to stick out for, his tenure in Sacramento because I know the Kings fans love him there. He's been so fun to watch
Yeah,
for that
good for him.
team.
Good for him to be like, hey, I found success here. I'm not gonna mess with it. I can make good money. I can make a lot of money here still. Like, let's just keep it going. Like, I don't want to mess with this. I don't want to jinx myself. I'm playing well. Let's just do it. I'm
Absolutely.
with you. He's a 6 man of the year candidate at least every single year.
I mean, yeah, just voting wise, he was the best bench guard in the NBA, and you could make a case. He got injured right before the play-in tournament, so you could make a case. If he was healthy, they could have made the playoffs again this year. You never really know. I mean,
He was a
it's
huge part to that team. Yeah.
one game situation between, it was the Kings and the Pelicans. And anything could really happen. I know the Pelicans had the Kings number this past year, but
Yeah.
great news there. Great that we got an
I was gonna
an
say,
extra bit of news there.
yeah, a little live action Woj bomb. I love it.
That was awesome. Well, Joe, you got anything else before we get out of here?
I do not think so. I think I can't wait for the NBA draft coming up. We'll have an episode on that coming up. Hopefully, we'll have more of the crew. Everyone again it's been a crazy start to the summer. I'll just say that.
Yeah, no question about it. We'll probably be doing a draft preview coming up soon. Maybe mock drafts with players and the teams they're going to. Because I know Coach Cove kind of did one breaking down like the by talent and which player is better than the rest, but obviously it will be different because certain teams need different pieces. So
Hmm.
super excited for the draft. That will be next Thursday. But until then, hopefully we get more news like this because man, if we get a couple days like this is going to be the easiest off season of videos
Oh yeah. We were
ever to
coming up
make.
with, as I say, we were coming up with like what kind of topic are we going to do? All this news drop. Oh, we are set for an episode.
We can save that stuff for later.
We
So
can
stay
save
tuned
the
for
fun
that.
segments later.
That is right. Well, guys, if you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Let us know in the comments what you think about the Pistons firing Monty Williams, the Lakers hiring JJ Redick, the Josh Giddey, Alex Caruso trade, and then these two reported re-signings of Pascal Siakam and Malik Monk. Great day of news in the NBA. Can't wait to see what else we get as we come up right before the NBA draft. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.